Amara was driving down an empty road, gently holding her belly and envisioning the future for her unborn child, when suddenly, blue and red lights flared in her rearview mirror. It seemed like a routine stop, but a chill settled inside her. Something felt wrong. She practiced her calmest smile, picking her words carefully, yet as the officer approached, his gaze held a verdict she hadn't expected. What lay behind this stop? What fate awaited Amara on that deserted road, where unequal forces would clash in a way that would change her life, and the future of an entire community? Late afternoon shadows. Amara, 5 months pregnant, drives cautiously along the empty stretch of highway as twilight starts to settle in. The glow of the setting sun fills the car with warmth, and she absent-mindedly runs her hand over her growing belly, feeling the comforting rhythm of her baby's movements. She's been to a doctor's appointment that day, and now, with a sense of relief, she's heading home to share the baby's first ultrasound with her partner. The quietness of the road is soothing, until she notices flashing red and blue lights in her rearview mirror. Unsettling tension. At first, she doesn't think much of it, it's just a police stop, likely routine. She slows down and pulls over to the side, reminding herself to stay calm. But a deep unease takes root as she recalls the story she's read, the encounters that didn't end well for people like her. She focuses on her breathing, aware that every choice she makes affects her unborn child. Amara grips the steering wheel, her knuckles turning white as she watches the officer, a tall man with a rigid stance, step out of his squad car. The officers approach. As the officer, whose badge reads Officer Crane, approaches her window, she forces a calm expression, hoping politeness and respect will keep things civil. But his posture immediately signals hostility. His face is unreadable but cold, and his hand rests unnervingly close to his gun holster. Amara rolls down her window and greets him with a steady, "Good evening, officer." Instead of replying, he barks, "License and registration," his voice stripped of any warmth or courtesy. Her heart rate quickens, but she moves carefully, reaching into her purse without making any sudden movements. Building suspicion. Amara hands over her documents with a polite, "Is there a problem, officer?" Crane narrows his eyes, barely glancing at her ID and registration. His gaze shifts over her, dismissively. "Step out of the vehicle," he demands, his tone clipped and impatient. Amara's breath catches. She's done nothing wrong and knows her rights, but arguing isn't an option. "I'm sorry, officer, but I don't understand." "Is there a reason for this?" she asks, keeping her voice as even as she can manage. The officer's expression hardens, and he takes a step closer. "I told you to step out of the vehicle," he repeats, his voice filled with authority, ignoring her question entirely. Fighting the instinct to flee. A surge of fear and anger rushes through her, but she tamps it down. She has a baby to think of. "Stay calm, don't give him a reason," she reminds herself, her hand instinctively resting on her belly as if to shield her unborn child from the tension building around her. She unbuckles her seatbelt, opens the door, and steps out, holding her hands slightly out to show she's unarmed. As she steps onto the gravelly roadside, Officer Crane's glare intensifies, like he's waiting for her to make one wrong move. A silent standoff. The world seems to hold its breath. Amara is hyper-aware of the power imbalance, of her vulnerability on this isolated road with a man who clearly holds her in contempt. She glances around, seeing no other cars, no other people, just the endless stretch of empty road disappearing into the dusk. Crane stares her down, his hand still hovering near his holster. She has the growing feeling that, for him, this isn't about a traffic violation at all, it's personal. The first chapter ends with a growing sense of dread as Amara realizes this routine stop may be anything but, leaving the reader wondering, what will happen next? The chilling silence. Standing on the side of the road, Amara feels the temperature around her drop, though the evening air is warm. Officer Crane's gaze is piercing, sharp with something dark that sets her nerves on edge. She's heard stories of routine stops turning dangerous, but nothing prepared her for this, a situation that has spiraled into something ominous. Her heart pounds not just with her own fear, but with a desperate protectiveness for her baby. With one hand still resting on her stomach, she forces herself to meet Crane's cold stare, hoping to find a shred of decency in his eyes. But all she finds is anger. A dangerous demand. Crane steps closer, his voice a low, venomous growl. "What are you doing here, this far out?" His question isn't friendly, it's filled with accusation, as if he's already decided she's guilty of something. Amara feels her pulse quicken. Her voice comes out softer than she intends. "I'm just driving home," she says, trying to sound calm. "I was at the doctor's today." She hopes mentioning her pregnancy will humanize her in his eyes, but he doesn't seem moved. Instead, his gaze flicks dismissively down to her belly and back up, a sneer tugging at the corners of his mouth. He doesn't care. Growing tension. Officer Crane circles her slowly, eyeing her up and down as if searching for a reason to justify his aggression. He leans in closer, his tone dripping with hostility. "Do you think I care where you're going? You think people like you can do whatever you want?" Amara's heart races faster as the layers of his contempt peel back. He isn't questioning her out of protocol, he's provoking her, looking for any hint of resistance. Instincts take over. Every instinct in Amara tells her to get away, to protect herself and her unborn child from this man's aggression. But she knows better. She's seen enough to understand that even the slightest show of defiance could endanger her life. She reminds herself to breathe, keeping her hands visible, trying to project calm. But her hands are trembling, and she hopes he doesn't notice. For her, survival means submission, at least until she can get out of this situation. She forces her voice to stay even. "Officer, I don't understand why this is happening. I've done nothing wrong." An unexpected twist. Crane steps back momentarily, reaching for his radio. For a brief moment, hope flares in Amara. Maybe he's calling it in, maybe he's going to let this go. But as he mutters something under his breath, she realizes he's calling for backup. Her stomach tightens. There's no reason for more officers, she's alone, unarmed, and visibly pregnant. Her mind races with 1,000 dark possibilities, each one worse than the last. Her hands instinctively cradle her belly, as if that alone could shield her unborn child from the hostility radiating from this man. A flicker of defiance. Despite the fear clawing at her insides, a part of Amara refuses to be completely cowed. She's not just afraid, she's furious. Furious that her safety, her baby's safety, is in the hands of someone who clearly sees her as a threat simply for being who she is. The world has taught her that people like Officer Crane see her skin before her humanity, and it infuriates her. But she knows she must stay quiet, must hide the defiance that's burning behind her eyes, because any hint of resistance will only provoke him further. The silent witnesses. As the tension escalates, a few cars slow down to see what's happening, some even pulling over a short distance away. Amara's heart lifts slightly at the sight of other people, as if their presence alone could keep her safe. She locks eyes with one of the drivers, a woman who nods with a look of sympathy. She raises her phone, clearly recording the incident. For the first time, Amara feels a small surge of hope, a reminder that she isn't entirely alone. Crane's rage. Officer Crane notices the onlookers, his face tightening with anger. But instead of de-escalating, it only seems to fuel him. He leans in close, his voice low and filled with rage. "You think this is over because you've got witnesses? You don't know how this works, do you?" The venom in his words makes Amara's blood run cold. She realizes that her life, and the life of her baby, hangs in a delicate balance. With her back to the car, her heart pounding in her throat, she knows she can do nothing but hold her ground and pray that someone, somewhere, will step in to stop this nightmare. The chapters end, a glimmer of hope. As the chapter closes, Amara feels a tiny kick in her belly, a reminder of the life she's fighting to protect. She stands a little taller, feeling the weight of her responsibility as a mother. For her baby, she will endure anything. And as more cars slow down, her heart fills with a faint, fragile hope that her story, her life, won't end here. Mounting tension. Amara stands by the side of the road, surrounded by the chilling silence that now seems to press in on her from all sides. Officer Crane is visibly agitated, his lips pursed, eyes hard, as if he's just waiting for an excuse to strike. Though a small crowd of onlookers has started gathering nearby, recording on their phones, Crane's face reveals only anger and defiance. He has made up his mind about her, and Amara can feel the walls closing in. She instinctively places her hand on her stomach, feeling her baby move as if sensing the turmoil and fear that has gripped her. A thin line of defiance. Amara keeps her posture submissive, yet she can't entirely hide her anger and resentment. It's a fire that has been burning since she was old enough to recognize the way society often treated people who looked like her. Now, as she faces Crane's seething contempt, that fire threatens to burst forth, to make her fight back. But she knows that defiance could cost her, and her baby, their lives. She grits her teeth, forcing herself to meet Crane's glare with a calm exterior, hoping it will be enough to keep him at bay. Provoking her further. The tension reaches a breaking point as Officer Crane takes a step closer, narrowing the distance between them until Amara can feel his breath against her cheek. His voice is a low, menacing hiss as he taunts her. "You think you're better than me," he sneers. "Driving around here, like you own the place? You're nothing." Each word lands with brutal force, and Amara feels her pulse quicken, a surge of panic mixing with anger. She wants to scream, to tell him that she has every right to be here, that she's done nothing wrong, but she knows he's just waiting for her to slip. The turning point. Then, without warning, Crane reaches out and grabs her arm, his grip rough and unyielding. Amara instinctively tries to pull away, frightened not only for herself but for her unborn child. Her voice is shaky but calm as she says, "Officer, please, there's no need for this. I'm pregnant. Just let me go." Her plea, spoken with genuine fear, falls on deaf ears. His grip tightens, his face contorted with a cruel satisfaction. The bystanders gasp, some yelling for him to stop, but he seems deaf to everything except his need to exert control. The first blow. The unthinkable happens in an instant. With a force that shocks even herself, Amara feels Crane shove her back, sending her stumbling. She catches herself against the side of her car, heart pounding as a sickening dread washes over her. But it isn't enough for Crane. His hand moves swiftly to his baton, pulling it from his belt, and before she can process what's happening, he strikes. The baton comes down hard against her arm, pain shooting through her body as she barely manages to stifle a scream. The witnesses cry out in horror, and someone shouts, "Stop! She's pregnant!" A desperate plea. Amara, clutching her throbbing arm, looks up at Crane with tear-filled eyes, her voice trembling as she begs, "Please, officer, I haven't done anything wrong. I'm just trying to get home." But her words fall flat. His eyes burn with a twisted rage, and it's clear he's past the point of reasoning. He strikes again, this time hitting her shoulder, and she staggers back, her hand protectively cradling her stomach. She's no longer thinking of herself, her only thought is for her baby, her innocent child, who is helplessly caught in this nightmare. The bystanders outcry. More people stop to watch, many recording the brutal scene unfolding before them. The calls for Crane to stop grow louder, and someone yells, "She's not resisting. Leave her alone." But Crane seems fueled by their protests, as if proving a point to anyone who might think to challenge him. He raises his baton once more, ready to bring it down again. Amara braces herself, shielding her stomach, a silent plea running through her mind, "Please, just let my baby be safe." An act of defiance. Summoning her last ounce of courage, Amara stands up straighter, her eyes filled with a fierce, unyielding defiance. She meets Crane's gaze head-on, her body battered but her spirit unbroken. "This isn't right," she whispers, loud enough for him and the crowd to hear. For a brief moment, Crane seems caught off guard, his hand faltering mid-strike as her words cut through the tension. But the moment is fleeting, and the rage quickly returns, his face twisting in disgust. The sound of sirens. Just as Crane lifts his baton once more, the distant sound of police sirens breaks through the air. Another unit is arriving, likely responding to the calls made by bystanders witnessing the violent confrontation. For the first time, a flicker of fear crosses Crane's face. He steps back, his grip on the baton loosening as the blue lights draw closer. Amara watches him, feeling the weight of relief and exhaustion settle over her, though her body still throbs with pain. She lets out a shaky breath, her hands never leaving her belly, as she whispers a quiet prayer of gratitude for her baby's safety. The chapter closes with Amara standing bruised and shaken on the roadside as the second police car pulls up. The crowd, now silent and tense, watches as two new officers step out of their vehicle, exchanging wary glances between Amara and Crane. Though the worst of the violence may be over, Amara knows this is only the beginning of her fight for justice. The videos go viral. By morning, Amara's brutal encounter with Officer Crane has spread like wildfire. The bystanders' videos, filled with Amara's pleas and Crane's cold aggression, flood social media. The hashtag Justice for Amara begins trending nationwide within hours, capturing the attention of activists, journalists, and citizens alike. The footage shows every painful detail: Crane's mocking tone, his forceful strikes, and Amara's desperate attempts to protect her unborn child. As the videos circulate, outrage boils over, and people begin to see her not just as another victim, but as a powerful symbol of the injustice faced by many. Voices of anger and heartbreak. The community's reaction is immediate and fierce. Neighbors, friends, and even people who've never met Amara begin speaking out. At a local coffee shop, a group of elderly women who have seen Amara grow up shake their heads in sorrow and anger. "She's always been a good girl, never causing trouble," one woman says, her voice breaking. "How could they do this to her? And her baby?" Across town, young activists gather in small groups, strategizing and sharing their own experiences of discrimination with police. The stories pile up, each one echoing Amara's ordeal and sparking a collective cry for change. Rallying for justice. A few days later, a protest is organized in the heart of the city, near the police station. People flood the streets holding signs that read "Justice for Amara," "End police brutality," and "Protect Black mothers." Some carry candles, others bring flowers to lay as a symbol of peace. At the front of the crowd, Amara's friends and family lead the chants, their voices carrying a mix of grief and resilience. Rachel, Amara's close friend, speaks into a microphone, her voice trembling. Amara is a daughter, a sister, a mother-to-be. She deserves safety, dignity, and justice. We all do. Media attention. Local news stations quickly pick up the story, and soon it's covered nationally. Journalists interview witnesses who were at the scene, each one describing their horror at seeing a pregnant woman brutalized by someone meant to protect the public. News channels show clips of the footage, blurred but still painfully clear. Talk show hosts and commentators discuss the incident, sparking debates on systemic racism in law enforcement. Amara's story reaches the homes of people across the country, many of whom are outraged and shocked by the blatant abuse of power. Amara herself, though still recovering physically and emotionally, becomes an unexpected hero in the eyes of those demanding accountability. The reaction from the police department. The police department releases a brief, carefully worded statement acknowledging concerns regarding the incident and promising an internal investigation. But the community's anger only intensifies. The statement, devoid of remorse or responsibility, feels like a slap in the face. People are tired of empty promises and shallow gestures. Outside the station, protesters grow in number, demanding not just an investigation, but real accountability for Officer Crane and a complete overhaul of police training. Local politicians begin to take notice, sensing that ignoring the public's anger is no longer an option. The power of community. In the days that follow, community members organize vigils, gatherings, and support groups. At one vigil, an elder from the neighborhood stands before a crowd holding a candle. He speaks of how he's seen these injustices play out again and again, but that Amara's case is different. She was carrying life, and they tried to take it from her. "We cannot let this go," he says, his voice filled with quiet determination. His words resonate deeply, and for the first time in a long while, people feel united and empowered to make change happen. Amara's resilience becomes a rallying cry, inspiring others to confront the deep-rooted biases in their own communities. The role of social justice leaders. Prominent social justice advocates and local leaders join the movement, amplifying calls for justice and accountability. Amara's case reaches the desks of several major civil rights organizations, who release public statements condemning the violence she endured and calling for Officer Crane's immediate suspension. Activists begin filing petitions, collecting thousands of signatures demanding Crane's removal and charging him with assault. The community begins to see its leaders stepping up, pushing for real, structural changes that extend beyond this one case. Community support for Amara. In the middle of all this, Amara finds herself receiving an overwhelming amount of support. Strangers from her city and beyond send her letters, flowers, and small tokens of encouragement. Members of her community organize a fund to help cover her medical expenses and legal fees. People show up to help with her daily needs, bringing groceries, cooking meals, and offering anything she might need. Her home, which once felt isolated after the incident, now overflows with love, empathy, and solidarity from people who see her strength and want her to know she's not alone. The chapters end, strength in numbers. As Chapter 4 closes, the community is not only angered but galvanized, united by Amara's story and determined to ensure that no one else has to endure what she went through. What began as a single act of brutality has become a call to action, sparking a citywide reckoning. The protests grow, with more people joining every day, and leaders push harder for laws that will bring real change. The people around Amara, friends, strangers, activists, form an unbreakable wall of support, and for the first time, the balance of power begins to shift in her favor. The world is watching, and the community is ready to fight for justice. The legal team assembles. Amara, still bruised but determined, meets with a renowned civil rights attorney, Thomas Green, known for his relentless advocacy for justice in cases involving police brutality. Green is moved by her story, understanding the powerful implications it holds for broader social change. He brings in a team of skilled lawyers, paralegals, and researchers who specialize in civil rights and police misconduct. "This isn't just about your case, Amara," he tells her in their first meeting. "This is about holding a system accountable, one that's hurt countless others like you." Together, they prepare to face what they know will be an uphill battle against a powerful police department intent on preserving its image. Gathering evidence. The legal team dives into building the case, starting with the videos taken by witnesses during the incident. They comb through each clip frame by frame, noting every detail that shows Officer Crane's aggression, Amara's compliance, and the cries from bystanders begging him to stop. Green's team also collects testimony from the witnesses, carefully documenting their first-hand accounts of Crane's excessive use of force against a pregnant woman. The legal team also examines Crane's history, finding disturbing patterns of complaints filed by citizens, particularly people of color, which had previously been brushed aside by the department. This discovery provides a foundation for their case, exposing not only Crane's actions but the systemic racism that has allowed him to operate unchecked. Strategizing the lawsuit. Amara's legal team decides to file a lawsuit not only against Officer Crane but also against the police department for negligence and failure to discipline a known abuser of authority. Their goal is to not only seek justice for Amara but to create a lasting impact that will force the department to address its underlying issues of racial discrimination and abuse of power. Green, well versed in cases like these, explains to Amara that they will aim for both financial compensation for her pain and suffering, as well as policy reforms that would include mandatory body cameras, de-escalation training, and an overhaul of the department's internal affairs process. Facing intimidation. As the lawsuit gains traction, Amara begins experiencing subtle but chilling intimidation tactics. Anonymous calls threaten her to drop the case, warning that things will get worse if she continues. She receives messages implying that her reputation will be destroyed, and there's even a low-level smear campaign painting her as combative and resistant during the traffic stop. But Amara's resolve only strengthens, especially with the backing of her legal team, who quickly move to issue statements discrediting these baseless claims. The intimidation tactics fuel Green and his team, reinforcing their determination to bring justice not only to Amara but also to the community at large. Community support fuels the case. Amara's lawsuit sparks an outpouring of support from her community, who rallies around her and her legal team. People from all walks of life offer to volunteer, fundraise, and organize events to spread awareness of her case. High-profile activists, pastors, and social leaders publicly endorse her, bringing her case to the national stage. Her lawsuit becomes a symbol of resilience, and her story is shared widely as an example of courage in the face of oppression. A grassroots organization even begins printing "Justice for Amara" t-shirts, with proceeds going toward her legal fund. Her home fills with letters of encouragement, each one reminding her that her fight is now everyone's fight. Deposition Day. Amara's first official deposition day arrives, and tensions run high. As she takes a seat in the conference room, Green sits beside her, his hand a steady presence on her shoulder. Across the table sit representatives from the police department's legal team, including Officer Crane's defense attorney, who appears smug and dismissive. As Green begins questioning Crane, the defense attorney attempts to block his inquiries into Crane's disciplinary record, calling them irrelevant. But Green insists, explaining that these past incidents establish a pattern. Forced to allow it, Crane reluctantly answers, visibly uncomfortable as Green exposes his history of misconduct. Amara watches as the officer tries to justify his actions, growing more flustered under Green's relentless questioning. A public press conference. Following the deposition, Green organizes a press conference outside the courthouse to keep the public informed and maintain pressure on the legal system. Amara, alongside her attorney and a few key supporters, speaks to the crowd and the media. She addresses the pain she endured that day, the fear she felt for her child, and her hopes that no one else will have to face the same brutality. Her voice shakes but does not falter as she tells her story, calling out the police department's failure to protect citizens equally. "I'm not just fighting for myself," she says. "I'm fighting for my baby, for every black mother, father, and child who has ever felt unsafe in the presence of those who are meant to protect us." Her words resonate, sparking even greater public demand for accountability. Uncovering systemic corruption. As the legal battle deepens, Green's team uncovers evidence that Crane's behavior had been reported multiple times but dismissed by the department, who instead shielded him from consequences. Internal emails reveal that senior officials ignored complaints, some even using code language to justify racist practices. These findings shake the public further, revealing that this case goes beyond one officer. It exposes a broken system. Green's team leaks this evidence to the press, and news outlets run headlines condemning the department's corruption. Politicians begin to feel the pressure, with several city council members publicly denouncing the police department's inaction and vowing to implement reforms. Settlement offer and Amara's refusal. In a move that surprises even Green, the police department's legal team reaches out with a settlement offer, hoping to avoid the public spectacle of a trial. The offer is substantial, but Amara knows that accepting it would mean allowing Crane and the department to escape without true accountability. After consulting with Green, she firmly rejects the settlement, knowing that going to trial is the only way to expose the truth and ensure real, lasting change. Her decision is met with mixed reactions, but for her, this case isn't about money, it's about the principle, the right of her child and community to live without fear. The chapters end. Trial preparations. The chapter closes with Green's team preparing for what promises to be a landmark trial. Amara, now a powerful symbol of resistance, steels herself for the weeks ahead, knowing that this fight could reshape the future for countless others. Green reminds her of the importance of her courage, telling her that her decision to reject the settlement was brave, and that justice, not a payout, is the ultimate goal. As they stand outside the courthouse, with journalists snapping pictures and the community cheering her on, Amara takes a deep breath, ready to face whatever comes next. The trial begins. The courtroom is packed as the trial against Officer Crane and the police department opens. Journalists line the back rows, their cameras and notebooks ready, while Amara's friends, family, and community members fill every available seat. Crane enters, his posture defiant but visibly tense, his eyes darting nervously across the crowd. His once arrogant demeanor now seems slightly diminished under the weight of public scrutiny. Amara sits across from him, her hand resting protectively over her belly, her gaze steady and unflinching. This is the moment they've all waited for, the beginning of Crane's reckoning. Opening statements, a clash of narratives. The prosecution, led by Green, opens with a powerful statement, painting a vivid picture of the events of that fateful night. He describes Amara as a loving mother-to-be who was needlessly brutalized, emphasizing her innocence and the fear she felt not only for herself but for her unborn child. Green's words are stirring, pulling the jury and spectators into Amara's perspective. When the defense's turn comes, Crane's lawyer attempts to cast doubt, claiming that Crane acted according to protocol and that Amara's own uncooperative behavior escalated the situation. The defense attorney's words land coldly, and the courtroom feels the weight of disbelief at his blatant attempt to blame the victim. The evidence unfolds. Over the next few days, Green presents the meticulously gathered evidence. Videos captured by bystanders are played, the audio amplifying Crane's cruel taunts, Amara's calm compliance, and her desperate pleas. The jury watches, transfixed, as the footage captures Crane striking Amara with his baton, even as she tries to protect her stomach. The defense shifts uncomfortably, knowing this raw footage is almost impossible to refute. Green follows with the testimonies of several witnesses who describe the horror they felt watching the violent assault unfold, each voice reinforcing the brutality of Crane's actions. Uncovering Crane's past. Green then delves into Crane's disciplinary record, which includes several past complaints from Black and minority residents. Each complaint is a chilling echo of Amara's experience: unjustified stops, verbal abuse, excessive force, though none had ever been thoroughly investigated. Internal emails between Crane's superiors reveal a pattern of dismissal and cover-ups. The jury listens intently, their expressions darkening as Green presents case after case, illustrating that Crane's behavior was not an isolated incident but part of a broader, unchecked problem within the department. Green's message is clear: Crane's reckoning isn't just for what he did to Amara, but for the years of abuse and harm he's inflicted on the community. Character witnesses. Crane's mask begins to slip. The defense calls Crane's colleagues as character witnesses, hoping to portray him as a dedicated officer who merely had a moment of lapse. Yet, as they speak, it becomes evident that few of them are truly comfortable defending him. Some reluctantly testify, their voices strained and uncertain. Others falter under Green's cross-examination, admitting that they had heard rumors of Crane's behavior but never felt empowered to report it. Each weak defense only serves to underscore Crane's guilt. The more his colleagues try to defend him, the more his carefully constructed image as a dutiful officer begins to crumble. Amara's testimony, a moment of strength. When it's time for Amara to take the stand, the courtroom falls silent. She recounts her experience with composure, describing her terror, her attempts to comply, and her overwhelming fear for her unborn child. Her voice trembles as she recounts Crane's unprovoked violence, but her words resonate with a strength that inspires everyone present. "I had to stay calm because my life and my baby's life depended on it," she says, her eyes fixed firmly on Crane, who shifts uncomfortably under her gaze. Her testimony cuts through the courtroom like a knife, leaving the defense visibly shaken and the jury visibly moved. The defense's desperation. Seeing that their case is slipping, Crane's attorney grows increasingly desperate, attempting to undermine Amara's credibility by suggesting she may have been overly emotional and misinterpreted the situation. But Green swiftly counters, reminding the jury that the video footage and witness testimonies corroborate every word of Amara's account. The defense's tactics backfire, as their attempts to paint Amara as unstable only reinforce the perception of Crane's callousness and cruelty. Crane's attorney tries one last time to frame the incident as an unfortunate misunderstanding, but by now, the jury appears unconvinced. A surprise witness. In a surprising twist, a former officer from Crane's precinct, now retired, agrees to testify for the prosecution. He describes a department culture that allowed certain officers to act with impunity, turning a blind eye to complaints and even punishing those who spoke up. The retired officer explains that he had seen Crane abuse his authority multiple times but had been pressured to keep quiet. His testimony is damning, providing insight into a department where Crane was protected despite numerous complaints. The courtroom buzzes with outrage as the retired officer's words confirm what the community has long suspected, that Crane's behavior was not just tolerated but enabled. The verdict. After days of testimony and evidence, the jury retires to deliberate. The tension in the courtroom is palpable as Amara and her supporters wait. Finally, the jury returns, and the foreperson stands to read the verdict, guilty on all charges. A wave of relief and emotion sweeps through the courtroom, and for a moment, Amara feels the weight of everything she has endured lift from her shoulders. Crane's face falls as the verdict sinks in, his arrogance and confidence have vanished, replaced by a look of utter defeat. His reckoning has finally arrived, and he is now stripped of the power he once abused so freely. The sentence and immediate reforms. Crane is sentenced not only to prison time but also to immediate dismissal from the police force. As the judge announces his sentence, she adds a powerful statement condemning the police department's failure to hold him accountable earlier. She mandates a review of the department's procedures, ordering immediate reforms that include anti-bias training, stricter oversight, and the installation of body cameras. The sentence marks not only Crane's personal reckoning but also the beginning of change within the system that enabled him. The chapters end, a step toward justice. As Chapter 6 closes, Amara walks out of the courthouse surrounded by her community, who cheer and celebrate her bravery. Journalists swarm around her, but she remains composed, simply saying, "This is just the beginning. Real justice means change, and we're only getting started." Her victory is not just for herself but for every person who has suffered in silence. The people around her, once frightened to stand up, now feel empowered by her strength. Crane's reckoning becomes a rallying point, a moment of accountability that will continue to drive the movement for change long after the trial is over. Amara knows her fight is not yet finished, but for the first time, there is hope that things can, and will, change. The community reflects. With the trial over and Crane behind bars, the community that rallied around Amara begins to process the events that brought them together. Neighbors, activists, and supporters gather for a vigil in Amara's honor, holding candles that light up the night in a moving display of unity. In the quiet moments, people share their stories, recounting similar experiences of prejudice and hardship, their voices heavy with emotion yet underscored by a newfound hope. They are not just celebrating justice for Amara, they are honoring a new sense of solidarity, healing, and resilience that has emerged within their community. Amara's path to recovery. Amara, still physically recovering from her injuries, finds herself adjusting to a life forever altered. Her bruises have begun to fade, but the emotional scars remain raw. She often replays the moments from that fateful day in her mind, remembering the terror but also the strength she found within herself. With each passing day, Amara focuses on rebuilding her sense of safety, spending time with her family and drawing strength from their love and support. Her partner is especially attentive, ensuring she's surrounded by warmth and care. They both dream about the future, especially about the arrival of their child, who has become a beacon of hope through all they have endured. The role of counseling and community support. Realizing that her experience is one shared by many, Amara attends group counseling sessions at a local community center. At first, she feels vulnerable opening up about her trauma, but hearing others share similar stories of discrimination and violence helps her feel less alone. Group members discuss their struggles with trust and resilience, the daily battles they face, and how they cope with the lingering effects of injustice. These sessions become a source of strength for Amara, a safe space where she can express her fears and hopes freely. Together, they learn ways to heal, share techniques for coping with trauma, and find solace in knowing they don't have to bear this burden alone. Forging connections and friendships. Through the community support network, Amara begins forming deep, genuine friendships. People who once felt like strangers are now part of her extended family. Many reach out to her personally, dropping by her home with meals, flowers, and small gifts for her baby. These gestures warm her heart, and her home, which had once felt tainted by fear and loneliness, now becomes a place filled with laughter, support, and love. She begins to realize that her pain has brought people together, forging bonds that may never have existed otherwise. A community healing initiative. Inspired by Amara's courage, local leaders and activists launch a series of community-driven initiatives focused on healing, education, and advocacy. They create workshops on topics like restorative justice, the impact of racial trauma, and mental health resources. Amara is invited to speak at one of these events, sharing her journey and the importance of community in her path to healing. Her words resonate deeply, inspiring others to open up about their own struggles and take steps toward healing. These initiatives foster an environment where residents feel safe discussing issues of injustice and inequality, building a community that is stronger and more resilient than ever before. A fund for justice and hope. Friends and supporters established the Justice and Hope Fund in Amara's name, aimed at providing financial and legal support for victims of police violence and racial discrimination. Amara, deeply moved, becomes involved in the fund's operations, helping to select cases and support families in need. She meets individuals and families who, like her, have suffered but are determined to seek justice. The fund quickly grows, supported by donations from all over the country, and Amara feels proud to be a part of something that will bring lasting change for people facing similar struggles. Her case has sparked a movement that extends far beyond her personal story, leaving a legacy of hope for others. Preparing for motherhood. As Amara's due date draws near, she shifts her focus to preparing for the arrival of her baby. She spends time setting up the nursery, filling it with soft colors and comforting decor, imagining the day she'll bring her child into their new, safer world. Friends from her support network throw her a baby shower, and she is overwhelmed by the outpouring of love. People gift her everything she needs: clothes, toys, baby books, reminding her that her community has her back. In the quiet of the nursery, she often sits and talks to her unborn child, sharing her hopes for a life filled with love, equality, and dignity. Finding her voice as an advocate. Amara's story has turned her into an icon of strength and resilience, and she's asked to speak at rallies, schools, and social justice forums. Though initially hesitant, she realizes her voice can inspire change. Amara begins sharing her experience more widely, speaking out on the need for police reform, justice for victims, and community empowerment. Her speeches are filled with a quiet intensity, each word carrying the weight of her journey and the lessons she's learned. Her voice, steady and calm, resonates deeply with her audiences. She hopes her advocacy will help shape a future where her child, and all children, can grow up in a society that values equality and respect. The community rallies for long-term change. Driven by Amara's story and her message of hope, the community rallies to demand long-term reforms. Neighborhood groups partner with local government officials to create programs addressing racial bias, police accountability, and support for marginalized communities. Through workshops and training sessions, the city adopts new practices, such as de-escalation training, implicit bias awareness, and the formation of an independent civilian review board. The movement grows beyond Amara's case, aiming to build a city where fairness and justice are upheld. Amara feels fulfilled seeing the positive changes her experience has inspired, knowing that her pain has laid the groundwork for a better future. The chapters end, a new beginning. As Chapter 7 draws to a close, Amara finds herself at peace, surrounded by family, friends, and a supportive community. Her journey has been painful, yet it has also brought profound connections and a renewed sense of purpose. She stands in her living room, gazing at the walls now covered with photos, letters, and memories of the people who lifted her through her darkest hours. With her hand resting over her belly, she feels a gentle kick, a reminder of the life she's fought so hard to protect. As she thinks about the future, Amara realizes that healing is not a single moment but an ongoing journey, one she's now ready to embrace. For the first time in a long time, she feels truly safe, knowing that her community stands united, stronger than before, and prepared to fight for justice, dignity, and equality for all. The arrival of new life. Months after the trial and amid the community's healing efforts, Amara goes into labor. Her partner, family, and closest friends gather at the hospital, filled with anticipation and love. After hours of labor, Amara gives birth to a healthy baby boy. When she holds him for the first time, tears stream down her face, a mixture of relief, joy, and gratitude for making it through everything they've endured. She gazes into her son's eyes, feeling the weight of her journey fall away, replaced by the hopeful innocence reflected in his gaze. "We made it," she whispers, overwhelmed with love and pride. A quiet celebration. Upon returning home, Amara is welcomed by a small, intimate gathering organized by her friends and community members. Her living room is decorated with flowers, balloons, and banners that read, "Welcome home, little warrior." She's deeply moved, realizing that this community, once filled with strangers, has now become an extension of her family. Her friends and neighbors bring gifts, home-cooked meals, and letters, each one filled with words of encouragement and love. Holding her son in her arms, Amara is struck by the feeling of belonging and security that has replaced the fear she once felt. A family united. As Amara settles into her new role as a mother, her partner and family rally around her. They take turns watching the baby, preparing meals, and helping with daily tasks, ensuring that Amara has time to rest and recover. Her mother and aunts share stories of motherhood and strength, passing down wisdom that has been kept in their family for generations. These family bonds, strengthened by the trials they've endured, give Amara a sense of grounding. She feels the strength of her ancestors guiding her, each moment with her family a reminder that her child is now part of a lineage defined by resilience, love, and unity. Advocating for change. As her strength returns, Amara resumes her role as a community advocate, this time with even greater resolve. She collaborates with local organizations to launch initiatives aimed at preventing racial injustice and improving accountability in law enforcement. Amara works closely with civil rights leaders and city officials, pushing for policies that will safeguard people from police misconduct. Her story, widely shared by the media, continues to inspire a growing movement, and her advocacy gains national attention. She appears at press conferences, speaks at colleges, and joins panels on justice reform. Her calm but powerful voice becomes synonymous with hope, resilience, and change. A lasting legacy, the Amara Foundation. With the support of her community, Amara establishes the Amara Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting victims of racial violence, providing legal assistance, and funding mental health resources for individuals and families who've experienced trauma. The foundation also runs educational workshops, focusing on empathy, anti-bias training, and community policing practices. Her foundation is met with an outpouring of donations and support, with people from all over the country contributing to the cause. Amara knows this foundation will be her legacy, a gift to her son and future generations that will continue to fight for equality long after she's gone. Mentoring young women. Recognizing the power of mentorship, Amara starts working closely with young women in her community, especially those who've experienced racial discrimination. She holds monthly gatherings where they discuss self-worth, resilience, and how to advocate for themselves and others. Amara's authenticity and vulnerability resonate deeply with the young women, many of whom view her as a role model. These gatherings become a source of empowerment and strength for the next generation, encouraging them to stand up against injustice and believe in their potential. Amara's impact is felt not only by these young women but also by their families and friends who see them blossom with confidence and courage. The community's transformation. Amara's story has left a profound mark on her city, sparking lasting changes within the community. The city council passes several new policies: the installation of body cameras for all officers, routine de-escalation training, and the establishment of a civilian oversight committee to monitor police activity. The police department undergoes extensive reforms, with officers required to attend racial sensitivity and cultural competency training. Amara's involvement in these efforts has given her a respected voice in local governance, and people now look to her as a community leader. The city, once divided and silent, has become a model of unity and progressive change. A promise for her son's future. In quiet moments at home, Amara speaks to her son, sharing stories of their journey, the bravery of the community, and the strength of his ancestors. She tells him about the legacy he is a part of and the love that surrounds him. Holding him close, she promises him a future filled with opportunity and dignity, free from the injustices she once faced. Her son, though still too young to understand, is growing up in a world transformed by his mother's courage, and Amara is determined that he will know his worth, his heritage, and the power he has to create change. A new chapter of peace. As the first anniversary of her encounter with Officer Crane approaches, Amara reflects on the transformation that has taken place within her and her community. She no longer feels haunted by that night; instead, she sees it as the catalyst for everything they've built together. Her journey has brought her pain, but it has also given her a strength she never knew she possessed. Surrounded by family, friends, and a supportive community, Amara finally feels at peace. She understands now that the battle for justice is ongoing, but she is content knowing she has done her part, setting the stage for future generations. The chapter's end, hope for a better tomorrow. The chapter closes with Amara standing on her front porch, her son in her arms, as she watches the sun set over her neighborhood. The sounds of children playing, neighbors laughing, and friends greeting one another fill the air. It's a peaceful scene, one she once feared she would never experience again. Her heart swells with gratitude as she thinks of all the people who stood by her, fought for her, and helped her heal. With her son's tiny hand gripping her finger, she steps forward, ready to embrace the future they've all worked so hard to create. In that moment, she knows that while the journey for justice continues, she has found her own new beginning, filled with hope, love, and the promise of a better tomorrow. This story captures the raw journey from trauma to transformation, a path that many are forced to navigate in their fight for justice and dignity. Amara's story is both deeply personal and broadly universal, illustrating how one person's pain, courage, and resilience can spark a community-wide shift, leading to meaningful change that endures long after the initial suffering has subsided. The narrative begins with a woman who, in the face of terrifying hostility, protects not just her own life but also the life of her unborn child. It underscores the vulnerability that many people, particularly women of color, experience when faced with unjust systems. Amara's story also serves as a reminder of the staggering courage it takes to survive and challenge such encounters, particularly when her very survival requires her to confront a system designed to obscure accountability. As the story unfolds, Amara's initial isolation shifts, and we see the profound impact a community can have when it comes together with a shared sense of purpose. The journey of healing is not solitary but communal, highlighting how personal tragedy often becomes a collective cause for justice, galvanizing individuals from diverse backgrounds to support a single, urgent call for change. Amara's bravery catalyzes this unity, turning strangers into allies, and her story becomes the anchor for a movement that refuses to be silenced. This transformation from victim to advocate is perhaps one of the most powerful elements of the story. Through her advocacy, Amara channels her pain into a force for good, establishing lasting institutions like the Amara Foundation and influencing policy reforms that will protect others from experiencing the same cruelty. Her growth into a role model, particularly for young women, emphasizes the power of self-empowerment and the responsibility that comes with visibility. Her story serves as a beacon, illustrating the ripple effect of resilience. Her personal strength inspires and uplifts those around her, planting seeds of hope and courage in future generations. The story also poignantly captures the universal theme of rebirth through struggle. The arrival of her son symbolizes a fresh start, both for Amara and her community. Her child, born into a community transformed by her fight, represents a new era, one where the promise of equality and safety might finally come within reach. This story underscores the fundamental truth that true change is often born from hardship and that those who endure are often the architects of a better tomorrow. Amara's journey is, ultimately, a testament to the enduring power of hope, unity, and activism. It shows us that even the deepest wounds can heal, and that every individual, regardless of their circumstances, has the potential to be a catalyst for profound, lasting change.